All right, my name's Cristine Hull. I'm here to introduce Todd Hull. Todd Hull is a walking miracle. He has survived not only a 25-year addiction to methamphetamine, but subsequent to his recovery, late-stage non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which has gone dormant through bioscalar and other high-frequency solutions, as well as open heart surgery, which prepared him to humbly meet the love of his life. Cristine Hull, myself. He has a background in psychology, forensics, and business. He will graduate this fall, and yes, Todd, December 4th is still fall, even in Cache Valley, from Bridgerland Applied Technology Center. He is an avid fisherman, recently achieving his dream of catching halibut and salmon in Alaska. He is a spiritual giant who is still waking up one day at a time. Myself, I am the author of Being at Zero and the up-and-coming sequel, Trusting as One. Both books feature a memoir of healing, finding my soulmate, and reaching higher frequencies in all life areas. The books also include deep and moving inspirational chapters from Arise Summit contributors such as Kathy Truman, Cherie Burton, and near-death survivor Vinnie Tolman. We are privileged to meet with mentors such as Vinnie Tolman, Todd and I are, to develop our life calling as a couple. And we are blessed with children, grandchildren, and infinite possibilities. So here we are, spreading hope through quantum solutions. Let's start just a few years ago. It was 2022. This is the story, the memoir at the beginning of Being at Zero. I was going through a divorce in early 2022. I bought a house. I was operating my online version of our 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 Academy, Conscious Community College, and having some connections with Quantum University still, where I'd graduated in 2020 and was using all those quantum principles in what I was creating in the world. But there was a lot of things working. There were some gaps, and I had a wish. The wish I had in 2022 was to find a conscious partner, a soulmate. Through Quantum University, I'd learned there are possibilities, infinite possibilities. I really wanted to go to the retreat of a lifetime, an advanced retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza. But I couldn't imagine going without a person. That's how I pictured it. When I visualized it, there was somebody next to me. I just didn't know who. All right. So 2022, Todd has a story. It is also included in Being at Zero. And some of his story involves quantum solutions.
Hi, everybody. My name is Todd. I am proudly call myself Cristine's husband. I'm sure there are some days when she may call me some other things than that, but she never does say it out loud. So I'm a work in progress. As far as being introduced to quantum solutions, Cristine mentioned I have a background in forensics. Trust me, that's not an Ivy League
School background.
school background. I'm a person in long-term recovery. The forensics come from 25 years of a meth and amphetamine addiction, as well as many other drugs. I tried them all. I couldn't find the comfort and love that I was looking for, starting from parents. My story in 2022 goes, I just left the last recovery center I was ever going to attend because I had tapped out. I was done. I got home. I had a lump on my neck after a couple months. Found out I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was basically stage 5. All my lymph nodes were swollen, everywhere in my body, all through my bloodstream, all through my organs. They said, you're going to die, but you're not going to die today. I refused to believe that. I felt that I had a higher calling, and I felt not only my spirit and my Savior and my God speaking to me, but something from that quantum field that I had actually learned a lot about in the center that I had left. It was focused on quantum solutions. So decided to fight it. I did. I had already been introduced to bioscalar and had been sitting around. Didn't know a lot about it at that time, but it would come into play later in my life and our lives together, Cristine and I. Um, I got through the chemotherapy, was moving right along for a couple months, and fell down in a grocery store holding my chest to find out I needed emergency heart surgery within 48 to 72 hours for what was called the 𝐬𝐿maker surgery. I had an aneurysm on my aortic valve from extended drug use and moving my body and my heart faster than I should, as they talk about in scripture. That was pretty a lot to go through. We'll say open heart surgery after cancer. I felt like I had made it through. I'm going to be somebody someday now. Here I was 50 plus years old. I was on some dating sites because all I wanted now was the love of my life after all these years of love I did or didn't have. And a lot of sites didn't work out. We don't need to talk about the stories. You could just imagine how horrible they are on these other sites. Anyway, as I was to put my phone down and give up, a site popped up or dinged on my phone that said silver singles, blue, bling, 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 but lighting up like the North Star or something, or the star that the wise men follow. And it said, sign up for this. So I signed up for it. And it was my last hope, fingers crossed. It was a Hail Mary. It was during football season, in fact. And I just vomited my bio onto this page. I wrote everything about myself. I'm in recovery. I'm a spiritual person. I'm looking to go back and find where I belong on that level of spirituality. What if that may be religion, if that may be how I can best serve my Savior because He saved my life and my Heavenly Father, whatever that looked like. I was open to anything. University, quantum to religion, to whatever it took. I was ready to give of myself. So long and behold, on the other side of that, a cute little blonde in Hiram, Utah at the same time was filling out a bio on a site called 𝐻WG&x. And when she told me the story and I found out that they combined 𝐻WG&x and silver singles, and the irony of me being on either is kind of just funny. I have to laugh about it.
It is funny.
I don't laugh. I wouldn't call myself stupid, but I'm not. As far as educated, let's just say I've got a master, I've got a PhD from the streets and from prison. I'm sorry to say it like that, but a lot of time that doesn't help us in today's society, and it hasn't helped serve me a lot of good living with people who I love that have to sometimes see the way I react to things. And I'm still learning how to be a person at 54 years old that I should have learned when I was a young teenager. So
But I have to interject my experience of you when I looked at your profile, because there were a lot of really very little effort put into profiles on silver singles. I'll just tell you, sorry if that's a man thing, but but Todd's profile said things like he was grateful for life lessons, family, and sobriety, that he had strengths in learning, in broadening his horizons, that he said, like everyone, I have my own past. Am I proud of it? Not all of it. Still, it made me who I am today. And he talked about his passions. I spend a lot of time now in outreach for the homeless and helping others who are trying to save their lives and find their way out of addiction. So it was like my jaw dropped, honestly. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a real person on this dating site that's talking about real things. So I was interested. Anyway, he smiled at me. I read his profile and I responded back. And the cool thing is, I didn't have to date anybody else. One and only date from my singles experience in 2022. You want to talk about that?
sure, let's do that. And when she talks about, I smiled at her. You push that little button to smile to someone on your app, and it's like, here we go again. I was thinking, here we go again, because most of the times I smiled at someone, it was either an AI bot or it was a man on the other side somewhere in Malaysia or China or India, wherever they do that from. And then they try to hit me up for money I didn't have, or a life I didn't have, or could provide for. And so I'm just like, I'm done. So anyway, she smiled back, and I'm thinking to myself, this can't be true. This can't be real. And I asked her to see, I actually wanted to see a picture of her because she didn't put
freaked
it.
me
She
out
put a
over
very,
all your requests for pictures. You did.
yeah, I wanted pictures because she sent me a vague picture of her. I couldn't really tell. Like, I wasn't judging by looks, but I wanted to at least see, but it was very vague.
I forget.
Anyway,
All you had was a phone, huh? You didn't have like your big
yeah,
old
all I had
computer
was a
now.
phone. I had a phone. I was in the sober living. Let's just throw it out on the table. I was in what's called a sober living, and that's what helped me get into society and do the best I could and follow those steps that are needed for every person in addiction that goes through these steps. There are certain steps you must follow, and I promise you, I tried it for 30 plus years to get sober and never could, because I would leave prison, I would leave jail, I would leave wherever and go to my mommy's house because my mommy took care of me and enabled me.
Well, you changed up your pattern though, that last, like one of those last times in treatment, having a quantum experience.
Quantum experience, for sure. But
Yeah.
that experience also led me to quantum solutions, which means the
Yeah.
universe provided for me as well. So,
And you watch things like What the Bleep Do We Know in treatment, right?
watch What the Bleep Do We Know, not only in treatment that time, but in treatment in 2005 at that.
Which in one of our first
same-
phone calls, we talked about What the Bleep Do We Know. And you are one of, like, out of 100, probably 200 people, one in a few hundred who's ever seen the movie that I've talked to, right?
And if anybody's never seen the movie, it's better than Top Gun. It's better than any Disney movie. It's better. I was a failure in school, 0.05 GPA, and I was introduced to quantum physics, and I thought I can be a master of this, and I am learning every day about it. So our first day,
yeah, our first conversation, I'm like, okay, this could work because of that, right? Okay, first date, here we are.
Our first date, I found out she's real. I actually talked to her on the phone. She decided that the 80 miles between Hiram and Draper was enough safety that if it didn't work out, she could turn around or whatever. I got her to come down, and our first date, as you can see on that nightstand, that was what was on my nightstand when I showed her my little humble abode, which was a 10 by 12 square room. I didn't own anything. I was in a sober living. I had a room that I kept nice and tidy and clean like a cell, but that was my room. That was my space. And she saw that. I must have perked her.
Like, it's Joe Dispenza becoming supernatural right there.
And I was already reading that stuff, knew all about Joe. Joe's one of my heroes.
Good. And I brought you something on our first date. Do you remember what I brought you?
Formulas?
Yeah, frequency formulas. Like, all right, if this guy is really what he says he's all about, he's, let's see what he does with a quantum solution like frequency formulas.
So let me share my response with that for everybody.
Okay.
To get a really good time out. I laugh out of this. So she gives me these little bottles of imprinted water. Now, mind you, I'm a recovering meth addict. Like when I take something and I take large amounts of it, I want it to hit me and I want it to knock me on the ground or take me to the sky. Cristine gives me these little bottles of imprinted water to put in my mouth to heal me or take me out here on the quantum level and heal here. And here I am looking for the cream filling and something to knock me on the ground, and nothing happened. I'm like, this tastes like water. I thought, am I really going to do this for this woman? And God told me, yes, you are. You're going to do this, and you're going to like it.
And more.
And you're going to do more. And you're going to learn, and you are going to train, and you are going to coach, and you are going to. Anyway, that was the start of what would inevitably be a few months later a trip to Arizona. I don't know if I
wait, okay, let's show the pictures.
Cristine keep going.
On 11/11/22.
Which is coming up, by the way, you guys.
It is. It's coming up.
It's coming up.
It's a good anniversary.
Please forgive this picture. That belly was out of control. That looks like I had been incarcerated forever, out of state. So like 11/11/22.
You're my Viking. So I learned that Todd is a Viking gangsta. And I was like, oh, I'm in.
I really do have. Lots of people have that Adriatic and Nordic heritage.
You're more Viking than anybody I know.
This is my bloodline. I do have a lot of love for Vikings, and I don't worship their history, but I am interested, and I have done a lot of research on it. I have a lot of shirts and medallions and jewelry that reflect.
Yeah.
So that was our shot at a Viking wedding. I looked probably more like a homeless pirate or a guy way out of place, but it was really fun.
That's good.
It was really fun, and I probably couldn't have taken on Blackbeard in that shape right there. I'm a lot better shape than right now, but
This is true because, and I was sharing that with somebody. Formulas and other quantum things, you are in better shape now than you probably.
exercise and healthy eating as well. Don't get let's not forget that it's
all the right things.
It's a full approach: spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. Like I have been working hard on all of it, and it still hasn't been enough. I still have a long way to go.
Always. Ooh, guess what happened in 2023? Okay, so we got married 2022, 11/11. And our journey continues, right?
On the same day was what?
Was your first year sober? Like first birthday?
Sober. My first year completely sober on our wedding day. We celebrated both. It would actually be my 12th. The 12th was actually my day, but I moved it to 11th and on.
No, you kept it as a 12th. It's a 12th.
Yeah, but we celebrated on our anniversary. I like to celebrate them both, but I do separate them to honor my recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the difference in years and coins there, and Cristine can explain why.
Oh, you can explain. So in 2023, we celebrated our first anniversary in Vegas at an AA meeting. And Todd got a coin. But but Todd had 2 years at that point. I had a few more. And so I looked at that and I'm like, okay, I've got 35 years. I had 35 years in 2022. And that's a big gap. 2 years and 35 years, big gap in recovery. But what I knew is that Todd was progressing really fast. Like it seemed like in that 1 year, he accomplished what I did in years, plural. So I trusted the process. And we continued on our journey. And we reached 2024. Or 2023, let's talk about some of the things we did in 2023. So I was continuing to study A Course in Miracles. That's been my solution all along. Working on my energetic balance, my vital body. I also brought Todd into as much as he would do. I taught him the emotional wells, the love solve method, which you see in the corner is the negative well. Invited him to do work on the pile of emotions, which is still process he's going through. But you can kind of see in my diamond the holistic approach. So you got spiritual, emotional, mental, which is kind of a mix of, meditation, I guess, and guided imagery sometimes. We've used a lot of that. And the physical. And he got a pile of supplements just like I have. So that was fun, right, hun? Still doing all that good stuff. And it was like we were still trying to make sense of his brain chemistry and solutions because he was kind of beyond my scope of practice, honestly. And I had worked with really tough clients, over 1,000 clients over a 20-year period. And he had me beat. So we went to a naturopath who did a full spectrum like DNA analysis, which I was so intrigued by. Okay, so in this analysis, the thing is there will be homozygous and heterozygous genes. Homozygous mean both parents contributed. So it's pretty much a double whammy. Heterozygous is in yellow. So the homozygous in red. Heterozygous in yellow is that one parent contributed. And so you can kind of see the frequency of the genotype in there, or the idea that, how much it impacts somebody. And so this section of mutations was all about detoxification issues. And so one of the things I learned about was NAC is like this really amazing supplement that helps with detoxification when someone is not naturally detoxing. So that was cool to know. And this is what's, it's like, think about an addict who has like a mutation in how they detox, right? Isn't that interesting? So I wonder if that contributes, that this stuff is never really out of your system all the way. I don't know. But neurotransmitter levels, you see those whole list of stuff there. COMT, which a lot of people have heard about. And, like issues with GABA, issues with, more or less the level of neurotransmitters, which are your, in 10 ways to balance your brain chemistry, your dopamine. And one of the things that the naturopath said is like, this is why this guy doesn't is addicted to meth, because dopamine deficiency just shows up all over the place. And that makes sense with ADHD as well. So then we keep going. Now we've got the homozygous stuff with neurotransmitter levels and the need for methylated vitamins. So if people aren't familiar with MTHFR, that's a major factor. And there's a whole chapter in 10 ways about it, explaining what is that and why does it affect all of your neurotransmitters, right? So lots of information there. We also learned about, things like the HPA axis, which is your adrenals. So we learned right away his adrenals were off and there were solutions for adrenals. So when you start to look at this long old list and you're like, okay, do I do more of this? Do I do more omegas? Do I do more B12? And there's so much to take in. So one, it's helpful because you kind of see the whole picture, but two, there's not always an easy solution. So overall, Todd has 100, out of 195 polymorphisms assessed. Todd had 48 mutations, 13 of which were homozygous, 32 of which were heterozygous. So that's a big pile. That's like 1/4 of all of those possibilities were hits. So that's a lot to work on. And so I was like, okay, so where do we even start, for one? And I decided, well, maybe I'll do my own DNA thing because maybe I've got some stuff and I've figured some of this out, right? Maybe I've got a handful that I can at least draw from. All right, well, this is what's interesting. You want to know how many? How many mutations? I had 54, 12 homozygous, 42 heterozygous. We were equals, more or less. I had a few more. And what was really interesting about that is I'm like, okay, how is it I'm functioning so well if I have more mutations? And so what I realized, it was the formulas. It was because that's what formulas are designed to do, is manage the morphogenetic field, is create the information shifts so that the epigenetics are resolved. Because it can't change the DNA, but they're designed to actually improve the epigenetic response to the pile. So, Todd, this is our new pile. It's all 16 sitting on our dresser, and we take them frequently still. And so when I've answered to people like, I'm healthier now than I was in my 20s, than I was in my 30s, than I was even in my 40s. I found them in my 40s. I'm now 57. Okay. People don't always believe that, but I am. And that's why I got in silver singles 3 years ago. So how does someone reverse aging? You do it through genetic shifts. You do it through quantum medicine, right? So it is something I actually offer to do for people is take your DNA from ancestry.com. That's all you have to do is have an ancestry.com DNA, data file. And we connect on there. And then I add a biofeedback session, the frequency formula questionnaire, and we identify the top 4 formulas to start. And you get the formulas plus the full assessment and the biofeedback. And we start to kind of break down your solutions individually. So that is available. And I've done it for a few people, and it's been really interesting to see what are the things that really jump out. Meditation is also a solution. So Todd and I have different styles when it comes to meditation. My meditation I developed it in my doctoral program with Quantum University. I had to have a quantum-based solution to use with clients or in my study. And I developed quantum wholeness meditation, which is the meditation for the Eastern mind and the Christian heart. And it works. Actually, one of the first things Todd and I did when we got together was we went to a Buddhist Sangha. So the meditation style that of quantum wholeness meditation is done in silence and stillness. And as I was trying to explain that, I realized a lot of people think or, call it meditation when someone's guiding them or, they're laying down and it's the end of yoga. So I was very specific about, this is like you're awake and you're connecting to source, very quietly. But what I realized is that that's not where everybody's at. And it wasn't where I was at in the beginning, at least in the beginning of my meditation journey. So Todd and I went to a silent retreat. And this is Samantha Akers, who's a amazing, like she's a Dharma teacher in Cache Valley. And she leads these 4-day meditation retreats in silence. So we get there and I'd done one before. So I talk about one and being at zero. And I was literally silent for like 3 days at the time. It was a 3-day event. Todd and I go, how'd you do a silence, hun?
So there was a big baha, like Todd can't do it because I'm pretty loud. I'm a loudmouth. I like to be funny. And what Cristine didn't realize, and I told her, was I've spent months at a time in a cell and
That's true.
on security where I didn't have anyone to talk to, and I was silent. But it's not the same thing. So being in this, I did pretty well at this. We had tiny little 15-minute breaks at dinner to where we could speak, and that's it.
Yeah,
The rest of the day, there were some times when I might have whispered here and there, but I did pretty well.
you
Not my
did pretty good.
thing. Oh, it's like, yeah, you might as well take me to sewing or home ec or yeah, something like that. Crocheting or knitting, yeah, not my thing.
Well, that
Sam
was, yeah,
Akers is an,
we tried it.
I love Sam.
But Todd got his real event in 2024. And we did it. We went to the 𝐬𝐿 experience. There's 2,000 people. There was an entire sound system with like 8 people running the AV, in the back of the room. And like it was
Oh,
lit
Lisa,
up.
as well as research going on in the back of the room with,
Yeah.
and the research is real, and you could just feel. Joe Dispenza does healing sessions during these retreats where 6 or 8 people sit and concentrate their meditations on
Oh
healing.
yeah.
So you can feel
Comparative sessions.
you can feel the healing power of 2,000 people. Cristine talks about the power of 8, and so she'll go into
Yeah, we
that
just do it quietly, but yeah, it's the same concept
same
for
concept.
sure. It was interesting for me because I reached a point by about day 3, kind of like Todd's experience of silence of like, yeah, right. My experience of constant stimulation was like, yeah, right. And I like literally started to freak out internally because I could not find a moment of peace. So it was rough, but it was good because whenever you reach that threshold where you're like, I cannot do another second, like a lot of times there's a breakthrough that will happen too. So that's the idea, I think, with any of those. So breakthroughs happen, part of the quantum journey. But isn't that fun that it was called the love of your life? That was so cool. That was in Denver. So summer 2024. It was awesome. And it's kind of each of these experiences we've had is like more reinforcement of like we belong on a path together. And we also are still trying to make sense of that. So, one of those things that was helpful in figuring things out was one of our spiritual solutions, crown essential oil. So, if I were to hold a pendulum over Todd's head, and we've done a little video on this, when he was trying to quit nicotine, because that was one of the challenges of 2023 to 2020. Well, it was 2024. It was a 2024 challenge that
Early
decided to
24.
take it on. So, what was your experience with that?
Nicotine is harder to quit than meth.
Wow, that's big.
The the entities or demons or devil or whatever you want to call it that knew that I was going to leave it all behind and be a soldier for my savior and a better energy in this universe were trying to hold me down, and they had me in the throat hold, and it was hard. And there were days when it put me in our bedroom, and I went there only because I didn't want to be a jerk to everyone else. But Cristine would come in walking on eggshells and try to figure out what was going on, and she would test me with the pendulum, and of course everything was backward and upside down, skittywampus. And then we
Which
put on,
suggested that you weren't really in charge of your energy body, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Good. Sorry.
we put on, we'd apply the crown oil on my head and smell it and breathe it, frankincense, myrrh, all the other fun additives in it. And she tests my crown chakra again, and things will just start working the way they're supposed to. My chakras would align. I was able to find the strength to quit not only the pouches of tobacco I was chewing, but the Zen was my last pouch, and added their addiction. Zen is totally destroying a lot of our teenagers and kids nowadays. Very accessible and it's very addictive. But that was my last one. I was finally able to put it up.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, Crown was a blend that came to me when I was working with a client, and she was a victim of satanic ritualistic abuse, which wasn't the type of clients I really looked for. I didn't have, that was beyond me for the most part. So she ended up in a hospital one weekend, and I was just praying, like, I don't know how to help. It's like, dear God, give me something to help her with. And I got this recipe. And so I found most of my clients, like I said, weren't that extreme, but I would have clients who were dealing with a faith crisis. And if I would actually read their crown chakra, it would go backwards in a faith crisis. And they may not be into anything really heavy, just battling their mind, and it would be reversed. We'd use the crown oil, and every time it would correct it and put the flow back in correct balance. And addictions, yes, conflict with God, loss of personal power. It would help with spiritual sabotage. So in the blend, like I said, it's, Todd said there's frankincense and myrrh. So that represents divine masculine and divine feminine. And it also has clove for protection. And so it would last for a few hours. Like it would actually like bring him back to balance and make him, a better human and protect him from the battle. So it dispels darkness. It does a lot of things that support direction, faith, and freedom. So it wasn't called that when Todd and I met. It was called Divine Origin. And he and I in 2024 realized this is a thing. And we created a whole brand around it. And that was a fun part of our journey. We're still finding ways to use it to get it to people, but it has been created. I think the creation part's fun. Okay, another fun thing. 2025 comes along, and a lot of Todd's efforts paid off in a good way. Do you want to tell about this? This is more recent, but April.
This has been March, April this year. After a few years of hard work and repentance and knowing what the atonement does for me and for everyone, and did for me and everyone, and is available to everyone, I was able to get my standing straight and go through the temple and receive my endowments.
Yeah, and it was an accomplishment. It wasn't, I guess, something that had to happen as much as it was meant to happen, I think. And my role, this is not my first go around with a spouse who didn't have it all put together. let's say. And I had to change in my own way. And a lot of that's through like A Course in Miracles, managing my own ego, fear, whatever comes from the ego. It's like force. Um, and surrender where I could and allow Todd to have his own process, because I still pray one day at a time. He's here for the right reasons, and he does show me that, which is awesome. It's good. So we have temple trips. We go to all kinds of places. What are your favorites?
The journey to Bern, Switzerland was one of them.
That was good.
The last one in Mesa was good. We've been to numerous ones all over Utah. There are many temples in Utah. Pocatello, Idaho was amazing. Where else was there? There's been a lot. There's been over a dozen in 6 months at least.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all.
So
just this year. So
that's become the thing that I think connects us this year.
Not to mention, I think Logan and Brigham City before I was, just when I was able to do baptisms, I think it was. But yeah, they're all my favorite. Each one has a different facade and feeling and blessing attached to it, miracle attached to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I believe it's our everything, but it's also not our only thing. But you can. I don't want people to misconstrue that you can still be an amazing person and not have that choice in life.
Yeah. I think it's a spiritual path that isn't, it's
not for everybody.
Shifted. It's not for everybody. But when it does work and it works for a couple, it's like that has been worth the journey. And it still continues. We still look for miracles. So we went to the Mesa Temple. While we were in Phoenix, we went somewhere interesting. You want to tell about that story?
Besides the temple, and we also went to a little place called 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 clinics with Dr. Daniel Amen, or Amen. You say tomato, I say tomato, and Cristine is going to show you some pretty crazy brain scans and why I may act the way I do without excuse. But I get to honor my brain in this.
So in our journey to try to understand the ups and downs, the, fluctuations and moods, all that fun stuff, it was really helpful to get the comparison. All right. So if you look at healthy brain scans during rest, I believe it is, you want to see certain areas light up and other areas be calm. So now this on the left might actually be concentration, because I know the more white, the more active it is. So if you look at Todd at rest, there's a lot of white. If you look at concentration, that's what's so interesting. If you look at that on the left, there's hardly anything lit up except for his limbic brain. Isn't that interesting? Right there in the center. Deep limbic is lit up. And that's like when your limbic is lit up, that's when you're like going into your emotional mode. So when he's supposed to be concentrating, he's actually a lot of times he's doing rapid texting to make sure everybody's okay. He's really worried sometimes, right? Like, how's everybody doing? Before I can think about this, I need to know. And all right, and then we have when he's at rest, everything's lit up like it's supposed to be in concentration. So he's trying to go to sleep, and now he's, like totally awake. Stuff like that.
Basically a dumpster fire mess.
Yeah, it's fun. So, and then you can see on the left, the healthy surface activity. It's like smoother, and Todd's brain on the right has got the holes where like they're supposed to be.
The holes don't actually represent literal holes. The holes that I'm not receiving blood or
it's lack of oxygen.
Oxygen and blood to those areas, which is just as harmful. So it's a deep struggle.
It's a struggle. It was kind of validating to see, though. During concentration, you have even more lack of oxygen to where it's supposed to be. So we came away from that with new solutions, new meds, new hope. And our goal, to kind of wrap this all up is to say, all right, we're going to continue on our journey. We're going to continue on our spiritual path, our path of service. And as Todd finds hope in his own journey, we want that to be shared. We want to spread that. So one of the things we hope to do with Spreading Hope is create the 501c3 model over the next year. Here's one of the things that has been heartbreaking, I know, for Todd to watch, is when he gets on Facebook and he sees what? Yet another loss.
Lost a lot of friends over the past 3 years. I don't remember what number I'm on now, 26, 27, 28 maybe, and just 3 years alone. Death, I didn't just lose them, their number, I'm talking about mostly overdoses, mostly people who've been sober for maybe a small amount of time, maybe not. Fentanyl is a destroyer of our country. Don't let anybody tell you any different. There's a lot of politics surrounding, a lot of confusion, but fentanyl is deadly. No whether you're doing it for the first time or you've been doing heroin for a number of years. So that way, some of them have been suicide, some of them have been just didn't wake up. But a lot of people that I've considered not more than acquaintance, like I've hugged these people, I shake their hands, we've had conversations, whatever they were. So that's a lot of people. So there's a purpose out there, and I'm still seeking this purpose, and that's a frustrating part, I think, for me, is just finding my purpose. Why I do love that my wife has a purpose and she loves what she does. It's just hard for me to watch when I don't know where my purpose is, and I'm basically living in faith every day, and I get to honor that faith even more and more and give back till I can figure out where I'm supposed to fit into all this.
Yeah. But we do, I mean, I feel it. I know, like, the ones that really get me are the people that have done years of recovery, like Todd. And you assume they're fine, and then one day you figure out they relapsed, but it wasn't just a relapse. It was a mortal relapse. It's like they're gone. And my thought was, like, what programs were available for those family members, those recovering addicts during those years, because it took me 35 years of recovery to know how to support Todd. I have no idea what others are doing. And most treatment programs I see don't even have a family program. Like, I was a clinical director on several of them. And the mention of family was rare in treatment. I was the only one bringing someone's parents in to do a session at the rehab, that I knew of, and as far as therapists, and talking through, like, what do these clients need from their family members, and what do these family members need so they can truly support these clients. So I would love to see something out there that spreads hope to the families, because we are going to get your mom's story of what she went through for 38 years, right? And it took faith. It takes a lot of faith, and having a Course in Miracles study and the conscious community is how I've gotten through the last 3 years. So
And
that's what we hope others will have. We hope others will have a resource and solutions that go beyond what's been semi-working. So, yeah. We got some bonus content in being at zero. There's some good stuff in there.
the little tidbits about our story that might just whet people's appetite about maybe hearing more about our story or my coming up. I did attempt to write a book. Cristine is an author, and so the first thing she asked me to do was put pen to paper and write a book in our first year. And what I found was a lot of trauma and PTSD that I haven't still dealt with, and it's good to cover that on my own. So I'm working through those things right now. Maybe they come out on paper. Maybe they're not meant for anybody or anybody's ears to hear what I saw or seen, and maybe that was just for my journey. But I may
Well, it's interesting to watch how your story has been shaped because you can entertain with where you've been. And it's so fun to go with you to rehabs and and you inspire the people at the rehabs. But sometimes at some point you kind of do have to go beyond the past. So the book is an interesting.
use humor. Humor is my mask. Everyone who knows me knows that. But it's sometimes there's time to take that mask off, and I can use humor to lift people up in recovery centers when I share my story. But the fact of the matter is they also have to take their mask off, like I did, and now I have
Yeah.
to. And like I say, it's not for everybody to hear, but it was my journey, and I can do it today without using drugs and still face it, and I'm doing it one day at a time still. That's all it is. 1 hour sometimes, 1 minute sometimes, Cristine would say, but it's a journey and we're making it. And Cristine hasn't given up on me, and I would never give up on my wife no matter what. So
Well, you don't give up on yourself.
exactly. That comes.
So you get tested and you still choose recovery and you still choose your spiritual path and you still choose sobriety, all that. And I thank God.
I do hope I do hope that spreading hope and all that we've talked about is able to reach a lot of people, because there is a lot of people I know with the years of recovery. I have 4, 5, 6, even more in Salt Lake and other places all over the state and the country now that are facing challenges because of, and without bringing politics up, we're losing a lot of programs right now. I realize they've got, I'm a conservative myself. I don't need to die. I'm not going to wear that label, but there are issues on both sides where the country needs to come together to help not only addiction and people in recovery, but the family constellation, like Cristine says, children affected of addicts, all that, parents affected by addicts, everybody is affected by
Spouses, children, especially adult children that are figuring it all out. Yeah.
everybody knows somebody that's affected by an addict. So it's a pandemic and it's worldwide. It's not just here, but it's more prevalent in the United States than anywhere. So it's time, and hopefully if we can do something, it's just everybody doing something.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically our list of quantum solutions has brought us, it's really, the story is like Todd has no business being alive, much less having 4 years of recovery. And, looking at all the things stacked against him between his DNA, his brain scans, even 4 years in, there's, there's so many factors against him. And so it has taken the miracle. Really, that's what a quantum solution is a miracle. And that's why he's here. And we're talking about this together. And I'm the same way. It's like 30, knowing who I was, I have no business teaching anybody anything, right? Based on that version of myself. So we all get our miracles and they're available. And they take choosing to surrender sometimes to them and to choose them one day at a time. So spreading our hope to you. Thanks for watching.